Hello everyone, I'm newcastle and this is Blue Lions TV. Welcome to another 5 talking points video after our game against Newcastle, where obviously we did win 2-1. There's a few points I do want to talk about, but you guys, before I get straight into things, you know what to do. Smash that like button, help me get more than 1,000 likes for today's video, and press the bell notification button as well to stay tuned to all things Blue Lions TV. But anyway, you guys, not to waste any time, getting straight into the first point, and I'm gonna be talking about Jorginho. Now, you guys, for me, when it comes to Jorginho, I would probably say that he was the best signing made in the Premier League. I think his influence against the game against Newcastle yesterday was a real testament to everything that we're trying to do under Sarri. And as you guys know yourself, and as I keep stressing all the time, without Jorginho, I don't think that we could be playing Sarri ball whatsoever. Now, I felt with Jorginho yesterday, he was very good when it came to interceptions. That was one part of his game where he didn't get too much praise for it, but it was how he controlled the game against Newcastle. I mean, we all saw the passing stats, completed a ridiculous amount of passing stats. I mean, just from Jorginho alone, he nearly completed more passes compared to the entire Newcastle team, which is a crazy stat. And it was how he just controlled the game. You know, with this guy, he really quickens up the pace of the game. He finds people in places where, you know, other players aren't finding them. And that was one thing under Conte I got very frustrated by. For example, Eden Hazard. Whenever this guy was in very good positions, Kante, Matic, or Bakayoko were never able to find him. But with Jorginho, he's there and he gets this team ticking as well. He's just a supreme footballer. I mean, just look at how he plays the game. The first time passes, one touch, two touch football. He always knows when to play that right pass, and his forward passes are great as well. And yesterday, I felt Jorginho played an underrated part in helping us get that win against Newcastle. And it was just in regards to how he was just dictating and controlling the game. The most important thing about Jorginho is the fact that he allows the other two midfielders beside him to focus on making runs and trying to attack their spaces in the final third, because they can rely on him to be sound defensively and to also find them and to control the ball and not lose possession. Newcastle were very hard to play against tomorrow, that very compact shape in the middle of the pitch. And if Jorginho wasn't playing, you can imagine that our passing game would have been much more static, it would have been much slower, and players that used to run in positions to find good spaces to play in wouldn't have been found without Jorginho. And I just wanted to highlight his underrated performance against Newcastle. And it's just nice to know that we have one of the best midfielders in the world when it does come to playing that position. You guys, moving on to the second point, and that's in regards to Newcastle and the threat we're going to be facing this season when it comes to playing against teams that do like to keep their shape very compact and congested in the middle. As you guys can see from the heat map, just look at the areas that Newcastle were playing in. It was very hard to get through them. They had so many men there. It was hard for guys like Hazard and Kovacic to do their thing. And you can imagine a lot of teams playing this reactive style of football, and that's going to be one big thing that we are going to be facing this season. Now, how can we combat against this style of tactic? Well, it's very, very hard. A lot of times it does come down to individual brilliance in terms of, for example, you know, a striker taking his chance and scoring the first goal. And again, scoring the first goal is the most important thing, because it then does force teams to play out to try and get something from the game. And that's one thing that we saw Newcastle doing last night. And to be honest, that's really the answer in regards to breaking down this style of team, because again, I felt when it came to our passing, it did feel slow at times, and that was because there was just no space to play in the middle. It was hard to really beat Newcastle's shape. We did do that at times. Normally, we were keeping the ball to the left-hand side and then quickly switching the play to the opposite side to try and obviously break up Newcastle's shape. Now, you guys, I think next season, when we do bring in a winger that does play on the right-hand side, that does have a left foot, that's really going to elevate our performances, because if we had someone like, let's say, another Eden Hazard playing in the team where he's able to beat a man and create space for other players, that's going to make a big difference in regards to, you know, as I keep stressing, creating that space for our big players to play in. And as you guys can still see beside me, it's very hard to create even shots on goal. Rudiger had the only long shot opportunity in the game, because again, it was very, very rare that Newcastle were making mistakes by leaving themselves exposed in the middle. And the reason why I'm stressing this was because I was reading a lot on social media about people thinking that we were being too slow with the ball. we weren't taking enough shots, etc, etc. Now I do agree to one point, as I kept stressing, it does come down to individual brilliance, which you are going to need to break down this style of team. So the players will need to take responsibility when the opportunity is there. But it is hard to create shooting opportunities when you are playing against 10 men that are very close to their goal. But to be honest, you guys, if you ask me, I prefer us playing this style of football where we are in control, and I'd rather play like this than forcing the chances, because when you force chances, you're only leaving yourself exposed on the counter-attack, as we saw time and time again under Conte last season. But everyone, it's definitely going to be a big test that we are going to be facing for this season. Moving on to the third talking point, and that's in regards to our defense. Should Christensen be in the team ahead of David Luiz? Now, you guys, I do feel personally that people are still being pretty reactionary when it does come to our defending. We have to understand, as Sarri himself has stated, it's going to take the team a few more months to really get to grips with what he expects from the team off the ball. It all comes down to positioning, and it all comes down to a team collective. You have to understand, we're not playing that low block style of football we were playing under Conte, where it is easier to defend. It's easier because there's much more defensive support around the players. You guys, anytime you think of our defending, focus on how we're pressing, because our pressing is key to the quality of our defending in games. If the midfield players or the forward players don't do their job, we're only going to leave our defense exposed. You have to realize when you have the fullbacks pushing up as well, Jorginho playing closer to Luiz and Rudiger, there's going to be times where counter-attacks will happen if players do lose the ball unnecessarily. But in my personal opinion, again, that doesn't mean that I think I know more than all you guys. In my opinion, I feel some of the criticism that Luiz is getting is a bit harsh, and I think it comes down to a few things. I think number one, people aren't necessarily happy at not seeing Christensen playing, and I think that they're taking it out on David Luiz by being hypercritical of everything he does and hypersensitive to all the football he does play as well, because people want to see Christensen back in the team. But remember one thing, Christensen isn't going to play on the left of a back four. He will play on the right hand side, so his competition really is Rudiger. Now, if the argument and the discussion was between Christensen and Rudiger, I think that makes much more sense in my personal opinion, because again, I don't see there being too much of a difference between the two. I think one thing I love about Christensen is his positioning is always on point, and he's another player that can play out from the back very easily. Now, people might be saying, oh, well, I can imagine Luiz is only playing because he does pay the forward passes. Luiz has always done that, and that's just a natural part of his game. But let's not think that Christensen can't do that. Yeah, just because he wasn't doing it in a Conte system doesn't really mean too much. I think his style is going to complement playing under Sarri a lot more than playing under Conte. But moving back to David Luiz, I kind of feel, again, you guys, I feel there's a lot of hypersensitivity in regards to anything that David Luiz is doing. I personally don't think he's been anywhere near as bad as what people are saying. I think when he makes one small mistake, people complain, but if you're being very objective, players constantly make mistakes throughout the games. There was moments where Hazard lost the ball cheaply against Newcastle, Jorginho did as well, Kante as well, but no one's going to have a go at those players for making one small mistake. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Nini, don't try and obviously defend what he did against Newcastle. I'm sorry, in my personal opinion, it was a collective error. It came down from the fact that the referee didn't blow the whistle, and just for that split second, there was confusion. And that confusion came in regards to Marcus Alonso, who didn't close down that cross. Luiz was already in position already, and when you're standing in a stationary position, you know, covering the position you need to defend, and someone is making an on-rushing run on your blind side, it is going to be hard to defend against that. And this is where communication plays a big, when it comes to defending, it's not just about that individual performance, it's about the collective. And under Sarri, that part of our defensive game is only going to get better. And this is why, you guys, I haven't focused too much on any of our defensive players, because again, I don't really think it's time to be hypercritical in regards to any of them, because it's still a process that is going to take a lot more time, because again, we're not defending in that usual manner we normally defend in. You have to remember, we've got a back two now. There isn't a back three. Maybe if there was another central defender in that position, we could have done better then, because again, that becomes a channel that's blocked for Haselu to obviously make that near post run. But all I can say to end this point is, look at how we defend the wide areas off the ball. When we see an improvement then, that's when you're going to understand that yes, the team have really got to grips with what Sarri expects from them off the ball. But in the meantime, I don't really think it's the right context now to be hypercritical of any of our defensive players just yet. Yes, I know I make observational points about Marcos Alonso, but even then you guys haven't really been too critical about the guy at all, in my opinion. We just need to take our time and we just need to be patient. But in my opinion, I feel that David Luiz is the first choice defender to play. And it just comes down to either Christensen, Rudiger or Cahill playing down that right hand side. The fourth talking point I want to make is in regards to Eden Hazard. And again, a lot of people felt that Hazard's performance was very average against Newcastle. And I was a bit baffled by that in my personal opinion. I looked at Eden Hazard. He's one of our main creative fulcrums in the team. And you guys cast your minds back to that second point I was making in regards to teams and that deep defensive low block. It's hard for Hazard to operate in that position. That's a position he wants to be in when he's just crowded out. Now, Newcastle did so many things to make it even harder for Eden Hazard. Number one, they kept fouling him from behind, which the referee wasn't doing enough of to stop that from happening. And number two, one of the defenders in that back three for Newcastle would actually break their lines to support the midfield players to stop Eden Hazard from doing anything. And that's one thing to expect that's going to happen constantly throughout the season. Teams will be looking to stop us operating in that space and to stop Eden Hazard from having much influence. Now, what can we do to try and counter that? I think maybe one thing we could have done yesterday against Newcastle after watching the game again was maybe being a bit more aggressive in the wide areas. And what do I mean by that? Even though I think Marcos Alonso over the past few games has actually been much better compared to what I've seen of him during pre-season, I've always felt there's one thing that he doesn't really do enough of, and that is just attacking the spaces by himself and carrying the ball to the byline. It makes a big difference, you guys. When you have a fullback that can just take responsibility by himself to beat a man, to break the lines, it does help create even more space, because then you're shifting the opposition's defense to try and counter you, then creating more space for our guys to play in. And that's the point I want to make, you guys. I think to help out Eden Hazard even more, I think we're going to have to be more aggressive in the wide areas to try and free up more space in those central areas. And moving on to the final point I want to make, and that's in regards to referees. Now, yeah, it was very frustrating yesterday. I wouldn't say that Newcastle were just disgustingly aggressive, but they did play a dirty game in the sense that they were just trying to cheat a lot of times. For example, the amount of times that Hazard was tactically fouled all the time was happening so often. Teams are going to try to foul us all the time to try and stop the momentum of our build-up play. Expect that to happen a lot more, and expect yourself to be very frustrated when it comes to refereeing decisions, because I've always felt that's one weakness of referees in the Premier League. They don't really understand how to control the flow of a game. They don't really notice when teams are trying to purposely affect the flow of a game by making all these small niggling fouls. This is why Diame was able to make 6 or 7 fouls in that game yesterday and only get 1 yellow card. But when Kovacic made the exact same tackle that Diame made 3 times, he got an instant yellow card. It's going to be really frustrating, and maybe that's something that Sarri can do a lot more. And this is where Guardiola has to be praised in that sense, because yeah, people used to complain a lot about how his players go down so easily, but there's a reason why they need to go down so easily when teams are just trying to purposely stop you from playing your football. But anyway, you guys, that's gonna end today's 5 talking points video. In the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions on some of the points I was making. Do you agree with some of them? Do you think I was talking crap? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. I'm newcastle. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.